What's up YouTube, Webberz05 here, coming at you today with Q&A number 49. Before I get into the Q&A guys, quick apologies on the delay on this one, but I was away last weekend visiting my grandmother. So, without further ado guys, let's get into the Q&A. So this week's questions are once again brought to you by my good friend Darkpatrician84, who's asked me 7 questions, but I will only be answering 6 of them because I did answer the first one in the comments, because considering the question that he asked me, I kind of felt like he needed to know the answer like straight away, considering it was something that could affect him in any future game that he plays. So, going straight into question 2 then. The following pendulum decks seemed to fall out of favour when Master Rule 4 started. Clifford, Mage Spectre, Ignite and Metal. Why do you think this is? That is, did Master Rules 4 and 5 hurt them that much? For some of them, yes. So Ignites and Metal Foes, because of their mechanic, they're based around destroying things in the pendulum. They revolve around destroying each other to get resources, and then basically the idea would be to pendulum summon them back and then just attack. However, if they can't spam multiple monsters out of the extra deck, they kind of struggle a little bit, so that's probably why those two fall out of favour. Mage Spectre essentially fell out of favour the moment Kieran got banned. I mean, Kieran had to get banned because he was just a little too good. And I'm a Pendulum player, and I can admit that. And I think the other reason of why Mage Spectre fell out of favour was pretty much when they made the Master Rule change of when they restricted the amount of pendulums you can summon from the extra deck and moved the pendulum zones into the spell and trap zone, which is a severe cripple for Mage Spectre. Because Mage Spectre are heavily reliant on their spells and traps to do things. Because each of the Mage Spectre spell traps is tribute a wind spellcaster to do something. And so under the old system, it's like, okay, tribute these, do something, bring everything back, effect, get more resources, fine. Now it's just like they don't have as much one, they can't spam as many monsters at the moment, and 2, with 2 pendulum zones, that limits them to only 3 spells. That limits them to only 3 spells and traps, which makes it very difficult for Mage Spectres to play. As for Clifford, they kind of seem to just be coming in and out around from what I've seen, because most of their stuff is fine. They've still got 3, they've got Scout again, so they can just easily search out their stuff. But I suppose for them it's kind of one of those, they're kind of, like under their old play style, they were heavily reliant on traps to be able to work easily, because they relied on things like skill drain and lose 1 turn, which would nullify their effects to give them their full stats, as opposed to having to just pendulum summon them, tribute them off to a tribute to get the summons off. So not really sure what happened with Clifford, but for most of the other ones it was essentially like the Master Rule change that kind of killed the decks off. I'm moving to opinions on hated cards. Alright, let's see what we got first. 3. Thoughts on There Can Be Only One. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of There Can Be Only One. Most of my decks are mono-type decks, so I severely struggle against it. But I did actually try this very slightly when I was playing Draco Slayers, and it worked quite well with them because their end board typically consists of multiple different types, so for them it wasn't so bad. As for, yes, Tikaboo is a very annoying card for a lot of decks, but it's just one of those cards that you need the right deck to be able to use it, so it's not like tremendously oppressive to every single deck, but it's not like tremendously helpful to every single deck. It's just kind of one of those necessary evils in the game that they've got. 4. Thoughts on Herald of Perfection. Yeah, this card's quite annoying to have to deal with, and its stats aren't exactly anything to sleep on, so it can be quite annoying to get around. But the thing I find with Herald is, since it's one of those discard effect. Yes, it's multiple use in a turn, but since it's based on the number of discards you can do, it's not exactly a difficult card to play around. You just have to be able to out-resource your opponent. You just have to, before trying to deal with Herald, you have to think, they've got X number of cards in hand, I've got X plus so many effects. You just have to play it around smart to try and get them to use it where you want them to. And admittedly, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, there is a story where you have to play as Heralds. I do have a little bit more respect for the archetype because I did have to play through as Heralds, and frankly, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. 5. Thoughts on Gladiator vs Heraclinos? Kind of opinion on that is quite similar to Herald. Again, it's a multiple use Omni-Negate, just based on the number of cards in your hand, so again, just a matter of out-resourcing your opponent, out-resourcing it, so not entirely impossible, but again, just have to play it smart when you do so. 6. Thoughts on Lunar Light Leo Dancer? I do quite like the Lunar Light archetype for what they do. Leo Dancer is a pretty decent boss monster. Though personally, I have to say I'd prefer Panther Dancer in terms of a boss monster. I just think it works a little bit better. But Leo Dancer, yes, can be quite devastating at the right time when used at the right time. But not impossible to get around, but not exactly easy either. But overall, it's pretty decent for what it does. 7. Thoughts on Invoked Mechaba? I don't really want to talk about Mechaba. I've been screwed by Mechaba far too many times in my career. It's probably one of my most irritating Omni-Negates I have ever had to deal with. And for Invoked being such a completely easy to use strategy, it's just not very fun to go against. I'm still surprised that Invoked has had absolutely nothing happen to it over the years that it's been around, considering how easily generic it is to use. And on that note, guys, that's all the questions I have to say in this week's Q&A, so thank you very much, Dark Magician84. Great questions as always. And to anyone else who wants to ask me any questions, I do these Q&As every Wednesday UK time, morning or afternoon, depending on my schedule. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.